Oh, I changed my mind. This sounds actually good. Invite me to the execution, please. Only a couple chapters left. Let's do this. Roxy tugs at a piece of her hair behind her ear with one hand as she checks the time on her phone with the other. John's not late, but Roxy's run out of things to do except wait for him, which is both cosmically appropriate and annoying. It's not like she's been cleaning up for his visit or anything, more like wandering through the house looking at everything through his hypothetical eyes. Things that changed since he left. Things that stayed the same. She figured there'd be some point when they talked face to face again, but what with the vast expanse of time laid out in front of them and all. But she's still been surprised when Jake arranged a friendly visit and ended up asking in hushed tones if she'd be willing to see John again. She had been open to it from the start, but Jake insisted on this absurd sequence of clandestine meetings to ensure that they'd be safe from Jane's watchful eye. It took an exhausting degree of assurance for her to convince them that John could just come over, and that Jane didn't have the house bugged, and she wasn't about to come and have him thrown in prison for having the audacity to want to see his own family. Now that the day of the reunion has arrived, Roxy is just ready to get on with it. The knock on the door is almost too quiet to hear. She exhales, fluttering over her overgrown bangs, and goes to answer. He's even beefier than she remembered, but his posture is turned in on itself like he's trying to seem small. Oh, this better not be another self-flagellating fest. She's prepared to handle a few apologies, but there has always been a cyclicity to John's contrition, and she can only handle so many self-absorbed attempts to communicating remorse before her head starts to feel like it'll float away from her body. Sup, John? Long time no see. John smiles at her through his hair as he waves hello. One quick slice of his hand to the air, twisting at the wrist, comes off as shy and boyish instead of hangdog. A good sign. Maybe her jokey casual approach is the right one. That could be handy, cause that's really the best angle she's got. She mirrors the movement with her own hand and steps aside for him to come in. All right then, pal. I do believe you know the way to the living room. Yeah, thanks. He clears his throat and follows her gesture. She walks a little behind him, watching his eyes catch on the things he expected. A coat rack covered in scarves, the wall of family photos, a super awesome sculpture some chess guys made for her that John always said was weirdly sexual for them. He looks at it now like it's something from an almost forgotten dream. Roxy sighs. Sorry for staring like an idiot. I just got done with a whole week of feeling weird about hanging out in my dad's old house again. I kind of forgot to think about how it would be surreal coming back here again, too. Some kind of nostalgia whiplash, I guess. Fair enough, yo. She faces him, seated cross-legged on the couch and a polite distance away. He looks past her, almost through her, like he usually does. She knows him well enough to know that he's politely not asking. Harry Anderson's out, if you were wondering. He'll scoot back home later, so if you want to make it through round 1 of awkward ex-family convos, I'm happy to say you can be rewarded with another one. Oh, cool. I'd like to see him if that's okay with both of you. Yeah, we chatted about it, but like I said, one thing at a time. Let me and you tear this old Egbert Lalonde estrangement band-aid right off and see what we got going on underneath it. John laughs, and there's a shadowed flicker of warmth to it. Roxy immediately wants to fan it, to make him laugh for real. But she knows by now that it's not her job to make him happy. That's something she gave up on years ago. But wanting to? That feeling is still fresh as it always was. Sounds like a plan. So, I've been doing a lot of thinking. And I realized some things. Some stuff that involves you and some that doesn't. But all things I think you deserve to know. Okay, let me think where to start. You know how Jake left Jane? I mean, I assume you know, though. No offense, but Jane's version might be skewed. Oh, LMAO, nah, I didn't hear it from Janie. Harry Anderson filled me in on what he got through his teen grapevine. Oh, are you guys not... Never mind. I'm sorry. I came to apologize for my stuff, not to pry into your business. We don't have to talk about Jane if you don't want to. Roxy shrugs. She's still working through what she feels about distancing herself from Jane, but John actually wasn't the worst person she could talk to about it. If he's truly about to be real with her for the first time in forever, she might as well try to meet him halfway. Janie and me haven't been super tight of late. What about politics, not coming between friends and all? LMAO, well, turns out sometimes someone's politics make it pretty clear what kind of friends they value, or don't. I don't know, sometimes people you used to like when you were a teen grow up to be jerks, or whatever. I think I was clinging to something just to prove to myself that I was doing stuff right. Old Rolal. Hella normal. Very good at sticking with friends. The more I thought about it, the more I figured holding on to that was one thing that made me lose out on some other stuff. You might relate. Aha, you got me there, I guess. Anyways, I'm not trying to take up all of your big speech with my stuff. You were telling me about how Jake and Janie finally went splits ways and how it gave you some kind of epiphany. No, it's cool. I'm glad to hear it. We can come back to your stuff after my stuff, maybe. But yeah, Jake, he and Tavros are living with me now, I think for the foreseeable future. We're expecting Jane to have kind of a fit about it. But all we've gotten so far are some divorce papers. If she knows where Jake is and she hasn't had a drone fleet dispatched to nuke my house off the planet, I think it's a good sign she's actually letting him go. Which is kind of surprising, but good, I guess. Okay, I'll be the first to admit that Jane's turned into a kind of a jerk lately, but you know she's not actually, like, literally evil, lol. That's debatable. Sorry to disappoint, but Jane's just a person, and you can't actually blame her for everything that went wrong in our marriage, like I was her hapless thrall or something. That's not what I was saying. Okay, neither of us came here to argue about Janie, did we? You're right, let's just not talk about her. Yeah, anyway, I've been doing a lot of thinking about how things got to be like they are. I guess I'll just come out and say it. I completely screwed your entire life. I'm not going to pretend like there are two sides here. My bad. Totally. It's not just what happened to our marriage, though. It's also true that that's completely my fault. But even before that, I think I screwed up on this massive fundamental level. It's what I did or what I didn't do that caused every stupid bull thing about the way this world is. None of this was supposed to be this way. Honestly, it doesn't feel right that we got married at all, does it? Your life was heading in this whole other direction with Callie, and I don't know. I just kind of took that from you. I think I ended up taking a lot of decisions from a lot of people. Everything I took a back seat to what I wanted. Whatever cosmic significance the lives here do or don't have, all the pointless suffering I've created is inhumane. And, oh nah, I'll stop you right there, my man. She feels a little bad cutting him off. This conversation space they've carved out for themselves is balanced on a tenuous trust. She doesn't want to scare him away. It's just that she could feel his whole speech gathering up inside him, poised to gush out in a long, rote ramble. And it's frankly just some bull. She knows more than he does, and she doesn't need to hear it. She's not a kid anymore. Doesn't have to pretend someone else is right just to keep the peace if she doesn't want to. Sorry, John, I love you, but this is some hot steaming horse crap. What? John's gaze slides over to focus sharply on her face, or maybe for the first time since he showed up on her doorstep. Goosebumps trail down her shoulders, but she doesn't let the closeness of it distract her from her frustration. It's just some real jerk-off emoji stuff, is all I'm saying. You think your choice mattered so much that no one else could measure up? And then what? Did you get what you wanted? Did your life end and the points got tallied and you came out on top, or like what? Still pretty much seems like we're moving to me. And you sure don't seem like you're winning, so where's all this good stuff you got that you gotta go around handing out apologies for? Also, dang, dude, while we're at it, you forgot to actually say sorry in that apology. No, I didn't. I just meant, I'm sorry for screwing up your life, or making it not, I like my life. I mean, it ain't perf, and I've got my share of screw-ups and mistakes in there, but you don't get to tell me it's screwed up, or that it isn't real or something. It's mine. So much for the jokey, comfortable approach. She tilts her chin up and tries to breathe evenly as she holds eye contact. He's been looking at her, really looking at her, and she doesn't want to blink, just in case that shatters it. John doesn't respond. He just sits there with his mouth hanging open, staring. He blinks a few times, slow, but he's still focused completely on her. The corners of his still open mouth pull themselves up helplessly into a smile. What are you looking at me like that for? No, I'm sorry, it's just, I used to be so angry that you wouldn't tell me what you really thought before. Not like I wanted to fight, but like, I'm just not used to this flavor of Roxy. Sounds to me like you just disapproved of your own hotshot theory then, genius. Huh? You wished I was one way the whole time we were married, but I wasn't. But now that you're all convinced you're the only real boy in a crowd of puppets, here I am being just like you ordered, only I did it without your help. Widen your zoom, my man. I'm not acting like this now because you want me to, or because you don't want me to. I was bad at standing up for myself then, and I'm learning to be good at it now. I've got my own self-actualization train. You're just spilling in to one of my many Roxy figures some stuff out stations right as I built it. But you were never like that before, Dude, where the hell do you get off trying to decide what is or what isn't me being like me enough? You think people stay the same their whole lives, or what? You've never really felt like anything about our lives was off? Off from what exactly? The way it should be? What does that even mean? John's mouth opens and closes. It seems there's something stuck in his spokes and his rhetorical tire. Roxy can see the gears struggling to turn in his head. She almost feels bad for him. Roxy lets herself take a moment. She doesn't want to reassure him with lies, to tell him he's never screwed up anything in his life, but she doesn't want to twist the knife of blame further into him than it needs to go. So she shrugs, looks at her ex-husband in the eyes, and tells him the truth. I mean, I felt something, I guess. But it's not just you. You've never been the only player in this game, you know. Do you not remember who all was there when this all kicked off? Me and Callie would have told you you had a choice if it was all just some meaningless BS. It's not like I was ever some master seer of all that ever was or will be, but I do know a little bit about what could have gone down if things were different. And you know what? I like the way things turned out. Just fine. So maybe you could stop wasting precious eternity thinking you're so special that it's your fault everyone's not perfectly happy. John's quiet. Roxy has more to say, maybe. More things she's half thought about but never quite put words to regarding the paths her life could have taken. This is already a lot of truth in one moment, though, so she pats John's knee and walks to the kitchen for some water. A glass in hand, Roxy leans against the counter, breathing. She's still running on the adrenaline of getting all that out. The surface of the water tumbles with it. She watches the ripples, watches her hands. She wonders if they'll ever wrinkle. When she sits back down next to John, he takes the glass wordlessly. After a minute of reflective sipping, which she is grateful for, he speaks. I was just kept wanting to find ways to make anything make sense, you know. But maybe it just doesn't. I know we became grown-ups in a world built specifically and cosmically for us, so I get wanting to find pattern in everything. But not everything has to be deep, and when you think about it, look at it that way, like everything has to be this elaborately purposeful, heroic design to be worthwhile, is actually pretty shallow. Oh yeah, I guess. John scratches his back, the back of his head like an anime love interest, and lets out one exhale of a laugh. His features are droopy, his whole body tired from the mental wringer he just went through, but he's still looking at her for real. Fondness surges through her, not in a way where she fears the reignition of any romantic feeling. It's just that she understands him, and he's starting to understand her. It's comfortable, the way an old t-shirt you thought you lost, but discovered in the back of your closet is comfortable. Smells mostly of musty, but still good enough like home to knock you right off your butt. I'm sorry, it's just not hard to feel like a total idiot. Maybe I'm not some grand vizier of destroying time and space or whatever, but we know that there's a canon timeline out there, and it seems really obvious to me that we aren't in it anymore. So what? So what? Yeah, so what? The hell do I care that there's some other reality out there that... What? Okay. What the hell do I care that there's some other reality out there? Somehow arbitrarily decide that there's the real one. What? That someone arbitrarily decided was the real one. What's that have to do with the life I have now? What is there actually that makes this one mean less than the one to the people who were actually in it? You never feel like you would have been better if things had gone a different way? Magic or no, I could have done a lot differently, especially you. Stuck around or stayed out of your way to begin with. Let you and Callie do your thing or do whatever it was you seemed to be headed off to do. I just didn't expect it to be me after... Roxy wrinkles her nose, thinking about all the lives she could have led makes her feel dizzy. Nah, don't say that. I mean, I accept your apology this time, but there's all kinds of ways stuff could have gone. And TVH back then, with her, mostly I think I just wanted to do stuff right. Not that I knew what the heck that even meant, LMAO, which was the problem, LMAO, LMAO, MLAO. Just like, we had this big fresh as hell start at being people. I had all these conflicting thoughts about how to be me in the first place, like what it meant to date a beautiful skull alien, sexuality-wise and gender-wise and person in general-wise. For a while there, I didn't know if I wanted people to think of me as a woman at all. I didn't know. Well, I guess maybe I wondered, but the way young idiot me would have wondered, so not that deeply. And it seemed like you'd forgotten all about it when we got together. I hadn't forgotten about it. Do you want to talk about it? I could have told you then, but I kind of felt embarrassed about flip-flopping with my identity, I think. Meant it isn't like I grew up with a big air quotes society telling me that I was right and wrong like you did. So it wasn't any kind of shame fest, just a lot of abstract hypotheticals we only just started talking about and never got very far into. Just IDK. I thought I might do things one way, but then I stopped hanging out with Callie as much. It's not like I stopped thinking about it or her, but it never really came up with anyone else, and I didn't really feel like I could talk about it with you, so I never brought it up again. I'm really sorry you felt that way, Roxy. It's okay. No, it's okay. It's not your fault. But don't you regret it? Not going for that stuff and instead just marrying me? I'm not asking so you can absolve me. I'm just impressed. How do you not second guess every choice you make? I haven't stuck my head in the timeline vortex like you have, so I don't know. What's it like to see other options? I just do things the best way I think to do them and then shrug and hope it works out. Roxy thinks about time and the spirals of choice that hang just outside her periphery. The vertigo grows. She rolls the word regret around in her brain, feels it on her tongue. John waits. I don't think I can regret anything. There's not only one right way to be me, in my opinion. I like the me I am. It's not like I went and decided, actually, hell, I love to be a woman and do all the stuff on the woman checklist. I get that's probs what it looks like. It's outside my own self, but I don't care about that. Sorry, lol, I'm not good at this whole explaining what transpires in my brain thing. John shrugs and Roxy gives herself time to think. She remembers how confusing it felt to even approach her identity when this stuff first hit her. There had been some vague truth about the uselessness of rules, about how gender should be, but she never quite worked it out. She stopped thinking about it until she got pregnant. Then she had been so afraid that the baby would confirm some deep truth within her that she pushed away, but that it would be too late to back out. That hadn't happened, and instead there was a strange, all-consuming bodily relief she felt when somehow being pregnant had felt right. It was good in the opposite way she expected. She hadn't felt any more womanly than she ever had. It had hit her then that she could think of her body not as specifically female, but something altogether different. Hers. A flesh machine, shifting pieces around to create a person. Her breasts, which she had not really known what to do with or how to feel about, suddenly had a specific practical purpose. It allowed her to retreat from the concept of gender entirely, grounding herself only in the physical reality of using her body to make another, two heartbeats blending in a rhythm that was nothing but human. She does not know how to articulate this to John. It's convoluted and personal, and she isn't sure she can do the overwhelming goodness of it justice. But then Harry Anderson is his too, so she knows she has to try. I don't know. This life I've been living gave me Harry Anderson. That kind of outweighs anything else, just for me, personally. And it's not like I ever totally quit thinking about that gender stuff. I just found a different way to work it out than maybe I was originally gonna. Touching those huge, inarticulate thoughts with words feels bigger than she expected. Tears prick at the backs of her eyes. She shakes her head and laughs before John can start crying too. But LMAO, John, we're just adults. We're not dead. I don't know. I mean, we're only what? Barely middle-aged in irregular human years? We've got all kinds of hypothetical, but still probably a finite eternity to work through our stuff out. So who knows? It's not like you figure out who you are when you're 23 and then the rest of your life is just sitting back watching your stuff fall apart or not. I mean, that's I mean, maybe that's been it for us so far. Haha. Ouch. I just don't think that I'm anywhere near done building those Roxy self-actualization train stops. Who the heck can even say how many more I've got lined up? Same goes for you. If you're willing to look at this life as more than a cosmically pointless dead-end failure that it is, I guess. There's literally nothing to do but keep moving forward. I may not as well be a big downer about it if I don't have to be. That's the spirit. We've got a million billion lifetimes ahead of us, John. You don't even know all the ways you got left to mess up in. How's that for some inspiration? It's pretty inspirational, Roxy. They both smile, and it somehow felt more warm and real than it was before. Maybe the cushion of years and lack of pressure makes it so, but she doesn't question it too closely. She doesn't want to get back to where she's been with him, but knowing they've both been there together feels like enough. Thank you for trusting me with this personal stuff. I know partially you were telling me all that to sidekick my sad sack, but I know that you don't talk about this kind of thing every day. To be real, I hadn't even let myself think about it every day, so thanks for letting me ramble at you out loud instead of almost thinking about it once every few years. I guess sometimes it takes hearing the same stuff over and over until it sticks. That's mostly an own on myself, by the way. LMAO, we're just ripping those band-aids left and right over here. A couple of professional issue discussers. Yeah, frankly, I'm baffled by how good we are at this. Where was this when we sucked so hard at being married? Buried under a shocking number of issues, my guess. Well, it's nice to throw a few off for once. Feel free to communicate with me instead of spending the next 300 years in a silent prison of your own making, if you so desire. John nods, and as he opens the door to speak, the door opens. Harry Anderson looks at the two of them, all teary and laughing, and hikes his bag higher on his shoulders, shifting his weight. Roxy sees a muscle tighten in his jaw. Her beautiful, smart boy. She wants to run over and hug him, to protect him from the possibility of pain at talking to his father, but she doesn't. She knows how much he's wanted this, no matter how much he jokes about it. She looks back at John and sees her own odd mirror in his face. She wills him not to cry, not to fall back on his own self-imposing suffering and blame loop. Something about this last hour seems to have done the trick, though. John stands up, brushes his hands off his jeans, and walks back down towards his son. Hey, Harry Anderson. It's really good to see you. Want to go for a drive? The muscle in Harry Anderson's jaw clenches a few more times, but when he smiles, it's genuine. Yeah, Dad. That could be cool. It was such a long chapter, but it was so worth it. My throat. My tonsils are killing me. Epilogue 8! On the other side of the continent, somewhere along the border between the human and troll kingdoms, Dave and Jade navigate a densely jungled region. Though they're high-ranking members of the Resistance, they aren't decked out in full military regalia associated with their positions. They're in camo fatigues. Dave sporting a patchwork of bright and dark reds, Jade in blacks and grays. This is the designated attire for those on scouting and reconnaissance missions, which is the nature of their current expedition. It's not camo if Dade is wearing freaking reds. Stand out like a sore thumb. Anyway. The orders came from Commander Vantis himself. This underdeveloped part of the border, mostly uninhabited for many miles, was unspeakably critical to the rebellion, according to the commander. When pressed on it, he'd claimed the reasons needed to remain classified for now. Dave and Jade suspected the real reason is that Karkant can't bear to put them in harm's way, risking their heroic deaths, but they decided to do him the professional courtesy of believing his story. The way they see it, he's finally earned a little respect by now. Besides, there's some fun to be had out here, away from the fog of war. Just like the good old days during their archaeological expeditions in search of terrible liberties. They fly side by side just above the thick jungle canopy, sweeping the horizon with sharp eyes. I think I see another one. Aw, snap. Dave squints. Sure enough, there does appear to be a large, rusted arm holding a torch, blurred by JPEG artifacts covered in vines, poking out just above the canopy. 2 or 3 times off to the west. You're right. Another terrible liberty. Good eye, Jade. Dave takes a picture with his phone, then updates his report containing a comprehensive accounting of the locations of every ancient Statue of Liberty his alternate timeline adult self once distributed all over the world as some sort of iconic avant-garde goof. He spent a lot of time on Earthsea wondering when adult Dave got around to doing which specific legendary exploits in the pre-flood period of his planet, when it was the old solar system. So much time, in fact, that he turned into an adult Dave himself. Was he the age he was now when he scattered these liberties in one of the boldest postmodernist endeavors in human history? The thought is sobering. He can't help but feel how appropriate it is that about 5,000 years later, his work is being curated, appreciated by yet another adult Dave. Who the better for the task? Jade readies another tactical bundle to be deployed inside the distant Liberty. It includes an efficient pack of capsulog cards containing tracking technology, military equipment, and powerful explosives. In the event this region becomes another front of the war, the commander wants as many terrible liberties as possible seeded with provisions useful to the rebellion, including the ability to detonate them at any time so that they may serve as traps. Dave wonders if his other self ever imagined they'd be used this way. He's sure adult Dave would have approved, being a fellow freedom fighter himself. Too perfect, actually. Deploying a bunch of terrible liberties as bombs as the service kind of liberty is terribly unterrible. Can't read. It makes him wonder if his other self on some level knew that they would be used for this purpose one day. He thought of his double's selfless sacrifices against clown tyranny, makes him feel proud, wipes away a small tear forming at the edge of his eye. Old age has made him emotional. Didn't used to be like this. Gotta keep it together, he thinks. Focus on the mission. Then he noticed something just below him, to the east a bit, a lumpy part of the jungle where the canopy bulges upwards slightly in the uneven, somewhat angular way. It's just a rigid structure beneath the overgrowth. Something man-made. Another liberty, perhaps? No, this structure is different. More compact. More likely a ruined building from an ancient Earth city, it seems to call to him. Yo, Jade, why don't you go ahead and ring that liberty? I'll be right there. I want to check something down here first. What is it? I don't know. Probably nothing. Some ancient bullcrap tucked away in a jungle. Doesn't hurt to be thorough. Okay, Dave, be careful. Yeah. Love you. I love you too. Jade swoops closer, gives him a kiss, then spins around and flies off to this distant, terrible liberty. Dave watches his wife go, her tail protruding through the rear of her camo pants, swishing back and forth with a sense of unrestrained affection for her husband. He's a lucky man, he tells himself. He knows he is. Before any decades-old doubts can resurface to haunt him, he dives through the canopy in search of the ruins. Those reservations, the tense feelings in his chest, that's all in the past for him. He loves his beautiful doggy wife more than anything in the world, and that's all there is to say on the matter. The ruins are so overgrown with vines and thick trunks of creeping trees, he can't make out the shape of the building. He can barely see an inch of exposed surface, but something is clearly there. He flies around the perimeter, pushing leaves and branches out of his way. Here's something. An old window, grand in design but broken, busted in by a huge branch that extends deep inside from years of growth. It's dark inside, hot and musty. He activates a small military-issue flashlight. Bugs scatter and fly about. He scans the boundaries of the room, shining the light around. There's an unrecognizably ancient moldy paintings and frames hanging on the wall, and yet the wall seems to have no corners. He knows what room this is. He's seen it before in films, under much better repair than this. He's standing in the Oval Office of the White House. Plant life is covering everything, but the fixtures are there. Moss is consuming the big desk. That flowering mass of thorny vines is where the couches would be. And over there is something he doesn't quite recognize. It doesn't seem to fit. He steps closer to investigate, wiping away the layers of moss and dirt to reveal a surface he most certainly does recognize. It's a transportalizer. Dave doesn't waste any time. You don't find something like this in the Oval Office and start agonizing over whether or not it could be how to use it. He steps on the platform, and in a blink his surroundings are completely different. The centuries of overgrowth are gone. He appears to be in some sort of crypt, boxed in by walls of smooth gold stone. At the far end of the room, something is hanging on the wall, encased in a sort of display. It's a mounted god-tier costume, about the size an adult male would wear. He recognizes the symbol. It's the same one Jake used to wear when they were teens. The symbol for hope. He steps towards the costume, hears a click under his shoes. He looks down and discovers he's standing on a large button, which just become illuminated by the pressure of his feet. The button bears a strange, angular symbol he doesn't recognize, but before he can study it, something directly in front of him draws his attention. Thousands of bright particles swarm from an unseen origin and coalesce into a solid, luminous figure. in the shape of a tall man. The radiance of the holographic image diminishes to reveal a man in a suit with a strikingly recognizable face. Dave draws in a sharp breath and clutches at his chest. Hello? Oh, gosh. I can't. Oh, no. Okay. I can't. I don't know how I can do an Obama voice. It's just not possible for me. Hello, Mr. Strider. I've been waiting a long time for you to show up. Dave's jaw hangs open. The legends have been confirmed, as well as several key headcanons of his. Without thinking, he drops to one knee and bows his head. Mr. President, it's an honor, sir. Obama laughs amiably and gestures with one hand for Dave to rise. Come on now, Dave. We can't be having that. I'm nobody's king. I'm a democratically elected representative who took an oath to serve his country and his people. People like you, Dave. If anything, I should be the one bowing. Dave says nothing, at a loss for how to respond to such soft-spoken words from wisdom and humility. He idles for a moment, seemingly waiting for Obama to follow through with his promised act of deference. I'm not gonna bow, man. I was just pulling your leg. Oh, okay. I just wanted to talk to you for a little while. Is that all right, or do you have somewhere you need to be? Oh, no. No, sir, I don't have anywhere to... yes, sir, it's more than all right. It's such an honor to... What I mean is... Mr. President, what I mean is I'm a huge fan of yours, and I hope this doesn't sound screwed up, but on some level, I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. I know, Dave. Obama offers a warm smile. He looks down, adjusting the cuffs of his holographic suit in the casual manner of a skilled statesman. It's the body language of a man getting down to business. Now, you probably weren't aware of this, but I'm familiar with the work you've done for your country in the past. For the whole planet, actually. Before you moved it, that is. You knew about him? Or me? Oh yes, most people thought I was gone, but I was keeping an eye on events. Wouldn't miss it for anything. Where did you go? I was doing what you did back then when the world needed you. I was doing what you're doing now under the same circumstances. I was answering the call. I went about it in a way that no one at the time could understand. You see, Dave, no one can really see the big picture. That's what real leadership is all about. Looking at the big picture, seeing the whole road ahead, making the hard choices for the greatest good. Not just decisions that lead a better tomorrow or make sure the next year is better than the last, or even the next decade. You have to think about the next century, the next millennium. Sometimes you may even have to leave people wondering if you've forsaken them entirely, because your real duty is to concern yourself with the final destination of the planet, and make sure it stays along the hard journey and ends up being the best home it can be for both the human race and the many newcomers to our world. Doing the right thing often means walking a long and lonely road, Dave, and I'm guessing you've already figured this out. I guess so. Dave pauses, pensively fiddling with the pockets of his camo pants. He has so many questions for the ex-president. He braces himself and presses ahead. If you don't mind my asking, sir, I thought you died? Well, I know you did, where I'm from, the meteors and all, but from what I know about the history of the flooded Earth timeline, you served your 2 terms and then just a little after, they say you disappeared. So you didn't die. Oh, I certainly died, Dave. Not when they said I did. Like I said, I was just answering the call. Other brave heroes like you stepped in to fill the void I left behind, as I knew you all would. And in some way, the death of those heroes was in vain, or a waste. Since the human race was wiped out anyway. Just like they say, my supposed death was a waste, a loss that humanity couldn't endure. But they were wrong. Those heroes were fighting for something. Even if all you manage to accomplish is leaving behind a legacy to inspire others in the future who need that hope to go on. Even if one of the... Why does this keep popping back? Okay. Even if one of those in the future you end up inspiring is an alternate history version of yourself, Dave. Haven't you been improved by the knowledge of what you grew up to be in my time? Can you really say you'd be what you are today without the memory of him, or the memory of me for that matter? Dave considers the question seriously. He's transfixed by Obama's kind gaze and can't seem to look away. There are times when he feels relieved by the lifestyle decision he made as a kid to wear a pair of aviator sunglasses at all times, no matter what. No. But, like, that's all good and totally inspiring and all, but sorry if this is nosy, but you didn't die when you disappeared, then how did you die? Most of that is classified, Dave. Rest assured it was a heroic death that took place many years after my disappearance, upon which rested the fate of Paradox Space itself. There were loose ends to tie up, baggage from my distant past. You know how it is. Troubles from your childhood tends to follow you, even after you move into the White House. Believe me. Yeah, I guess so. What happened to you as a kid? Or is that classified too? No, it's not classified, because I never even told the government about it. I can't classify what you don't know. Dang. When I was a boy living in Hawaii on my 13th birthday, I was visited by a mysterious stranger. He was an older man with a mustache. Kind of corny, old-fashioned adventuring type. He tried to convince me we were related. Of course, I thought he was full of crap. To this day, I'm not sure about that. Maybe he was. I didn't think much at all of this tall tale at the time, but it did pique my interest in his story. He was voyaging all over the Pacific looking for a mysterious island which supposedly had all the answers he spent his whole life searching for. During his travels, he set up outposts all over the ocean to help with his search, such as the one near where I lived as a boy. The outpost had a laboratory, an archaeological dig site, a network of underground tunnels, the works. One time I snuck in there and did some exploration on my own. Somewhere in the maze of underground ruins, I found a transportalizer pad, just like the one that brought you here. It sent me to a new realm, a place they called the Medium. Dave does his best not to show it, but his heart is racing faster with every word Obama says. His mind races too, with more thoughts than he can keep track of. The thoughts of affirmation, exhilaration. I knew it. I knew it. His brain repeats itself. The sense of vindication is undescribable. Others were there, kids my age. I made friends that lasted a lifetime. Over the years, I would return there now and then. I felt I was needed. I made one final trip there after serving my term in office. As I said, I kept an eye on Earth events, but I knew I would never return. Not with the work that still needed to be done, but before my heroic death, I made sure to have my affairs in order, to fulfill certain cosmic necessities of the future, such as our meeting here, Dave. Holy crap. I capture-logged a ghost imprint of my brain. You remember how to do that, don't you? I stored the imprint in this holographic projection device. You see, Dave, it was critical that I had a chance to speak with you, but only when the time was right. Only once. You had made it all this way, standing ready to defend the future of Earthsea. Tears were welling up in the corners of Dave's eyes. There go the waterworks again. He says another quiet prayer of gratitude for the shades John gave him. He's got to keep this together. He tells himself there is nothing wrong with crying. Of course there isn't. Not in front of Obama. He's got to keep it together. He sniffs deeply with a theatrical stoicism and crosses his arms. But on his exhale, a small choked sob escapes. He seals his lips tight, but his mouth quivers and puckers under the impossible pressures of restraint. I know what you're going through. There's a lot of emotion about these trying times, but hey, why don't we take a walk? You'll have a chance to collect yourself, and there's something I'd like you to see. Obama waves his hand towards the wall. A secret compartment opens up with the traditional stone grinding noises to be heard in any crypt worth exploring. He leads the way to a dark corridor. They walk for some time, only one pair of solid feet making audible footsteps that echo far ahead into the darkness. The light from Obama himself serves as Dave's torch. Soon he feels calm enough to continue conversation. Mr. President, you said I reminded you of the adult date from your timeline? That's right. So wait, how did you know adult date if you were from the original timeline? Dave, come on now. Surely you must know I'm no stranger to time shenanigans myself. Oh yeah, of course, what was I thinking? Anyway, no offense, but are you really sure I remind you of him? There are a lot of times I don't feel like I'm at all living up to the guy's example. A lot of times I feel like I'm just going along with stuff. Like my buddy organizes this awesome rebellion and I'm just like, duh, yeah right, sounds cool. I guess I'll scout around the jungle and rig a bunch of stupid statues of liberty to explode if those are the orders. Rig the what to do what now? Oh, yeah, maybe never mind that. Just a stupid mission I'm on, and to be honest, Carcat just sent us on it so we don't get ourselves killed stupidly. Obama nods solemnly at this clarification. His expression makes it clear that this is a type of executive decision he understands all too well. But compared to that guy, I apparently turned out, I don't know, like a lesser version of myself somehow. Not lesser, maybe, just like somehow ended up as the version of me who didn't stay as true to myself as I could have. Like, I neither entered this world already considered a god, already famous, already celebrated as a genius. What was there left to achieve? I still did a lot of incredible and stupid stuff, I guess. I'm pretty proud of, I don't know. Something feels hollow about a lot of what I've done the last bunch of years. Or I guess about a lot of stuff in general. It's not just accomplishments or stuff like that. It goes deeper, I think. Like, Karkat managed to rise to the occasion and defend his people, but I hardly had anything to do with that. It was mostly him. He's turned into someone pretty incredible, really. You still care a lot about Karkat, don't you? Well, yeah, of course he's my friend. Are you sure that's all it is, Dave? I love my wife. Jade has been the best thing that ever happened to me. The day I decided to marry her and, like, get off the fence, stopped insulting her by acting so casual about it, like our thing was no big deal, she deserved me being all the way into it. She deserves everything, and I know that this is all true. But here come more tears again. More than a drop or two at the corners of his eyes. He blinks and they run down his face, racing beneath the lower rims of his shades faster than he can turn away. He's losing control now. His cool is a distant memory, like a dream he's struggling to remember. Obama puts a flickering hand on his shoulder. Dave feels the dense light of the hologram buzzing through the fabric of his clothes, grazing his skin. It tingles, like mild static electricity. My bro died a long time ago. Hung himself for some reason. For a little while I had a bro. I could talk to him about stuff. I did a little bit, but I don't know if we ever got that deep into whatever. You can always talk to me about everything, Dave. Yeah, thanks, man. Guess what I'm trying to say is, I miss him. A lot. I think Dirk would have been proud if you could see how he turned out. In fact, I know it. No, I mean, yeah, I do kind of miss him too. I try not to think about him because well, that's a whole thing. What I meant was, I miss Karkat. Dave falls to his knees. He slides open his palms with his he slides his open palms up beneath his shades and covers his face. He weeps quietly as Obama looks down on him, smiling patiently, understandingly. I think I messed up. I didn't do the right thing a long time ago now. Even though I love Jade, I feel like I'm living a lie. I try not to even think any of this stuff, but now I'm letting myself not only think it, but I say it. I feel like I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. He's hyperventilating now, but he catches himself. He has to calm down. This is no way to behave in front of a president. He collects himself, starts breathing steadily, and looks up. Mr. President, can you keep a secret? Yes, I can, Dave. These days, keeping secrets is practically all I ever do down here. I think. He turns a hand through his hair and looks back down. Think I'm gay. Obama purses his lips in that trademark way. His thoughtful, serious, contemplative. He nods slowly, letting the silence grow, as if considering precisely how to deliver the most perfect arrangement of words any man has uttered in human history. Over the course of our lives, we all tend to believe we're a lot of different things. One year you're this, another year that. Later in life you start pushing 40 and start worrying you've been believing the wrong thing about yourself the whole time. I've had my share of doubts, all of that, just like any other man. And I've had plenty of time, same kind of struggles as you, Dave. What, you? Obama nods and smiles wistfully. Dave arches his eyebrows high above his shades. They stare at each other. In a look that they exchange, they seem to say all that needs to be said between two grown men on the matter. Identity, sexuality, gender, all that stuff is about as illusionary as I am, standing before you. Is this the real me? Who can really say? Depends on what real means, or what I even mean when I say me. For that matter, are you even real? Haven't you asked yourself that question one way or another all your life? Yeah. Believing is the key to understanding the truth underlying the words, the truth underlying the ideas they represent, and the truth underlying who we are as individuals. The power of belief, the power of hope. That's what endows that which is intangible, ephemeral, or uncertain with a sense of reality. It brings focus to the insubstantial, the mirages of the mind, the multiplicity of what is possible, of what could be, and isolates it, concentrates it to turn it into what is. And the result of that, Dave, is what we call truth. Dave is still crying, but he doesn't care anymore. The tears are flowing down his face, but he won't look away. He's perfectly unashamed of his vulnerability at this moment. The only thing he knows is that he needs to listen carefully to every precious syllable, to listen with his ears, his heart, his entire being. The truth of oneself can be very specific if one wills it to be. Statements such as, I am gay, I am straight, I am a man, I'm a woman, these are statements about an individual that gains strength through the power of belief we invest in them. But there is another more generalized truth about a person that can emerge when such conviction is absent, when the partitions of the mind dissolve and the boundaries between everything you are now and everything you might have become begin to fade away. Oh, you're talking about the ultimate self stuff. I am indeed Dave. Wow, I haven't heard about that in a long time. Rose used to talk about it all the time. Dirk would rant about it too. He sure did. Wait, you mentioned Dirk earlier. Did you, actually know him? Oh, we met on a few occasions. Dave blinks. How is that possible? He killed himself. Did he now? Are you saying that's not possible? I'm saying you know as well as I do that's an awfully hard to pin down exactly what happened to whom, depending on which frame of reference we might be talking about. Wow, so he, I learned a lot from him. I met with him as a young man, as I was just beginning to explore the wonders of my session. He taught me about many things. Combat, philosophy, life, love. Hold on, are you saying? Now, Dave, I can't go around disclosing everything under the sun. Plenty of this is still under the umbrella of executive privilege. Loose lips sink ships, as they say. Obama winks again. Dave has actually lost track of how many times he's winked so far. Oh, right. So somehow he met you and trained you and stuff and talked about the ultimate self. I remember my Dirk would go off the deep end about stuff sometimes. Maybe it made him snap because he just offed himself and that was that. But Rose used to talk about it too, probably even more. But one day she just stopped and never mentioned it again. You know what, happened to her? She settled happily into the specific. That's her path now. All of you have embraced that life in this safely sequestered version of planet Earth. All of you until now, Dave. This is why you're here. I believe you're ready to wake up. Dave suddenly realizes that they've stopped at a dead end of the passage. Obama holds up his arm and points his open palm towards the wall. The wall lifts the comforting sound of ancient stones grinding against each other. The sliding panel reveals a recess, and in the excess stands a robot, its gleaming, polished silver replica of Dave, but without shades. It stands totally still, unpowered. Dave struggles to make sense of what he's looking at. Now look, a human body, even one that's been elevated to god-tier status, cannot withstand the stresses put on it by the awesome power of the ultimate self. You'd quickly become sick and wither away. We can't have that. So before I died, I made sure to create this brand new body for you. I have to admit, some of my finest work, real beauty. It should serve you well in your new life, a life where the world will need more of you than ever, Dave. Not only this world, but the future of reality. If this sounds confusing, don't worry. You'll understand everything once I help you ascend. So what do you say? At the end of the day, this is a choice that belongs to you. Are you ready to accept your destiny, Dave Strider? It finally catches up to him what's taking place here. Dave is sobbing loudly now, beside himself with feelings of joy, a sort of existential relief, and a true sense of purpose. He takes only a moment to decide, not to weigh the merits of the decision. He understands now that the decision was already made the second he first laid his eyes on the former president. He pauses only to savor this perfect moment. Yes, absolutely. I've never been more ready for anything in my life, Mr. President. Obama nods once curtly, and his smile dissolves into a serious look as he closes his eyes. He extends his arm and slowly pushes his hand through Dave's forehead. The energy from the dense light form crackles and sends waves through the air like ripples through a pond. It happens suddenly, a shock of white light completely enveloping his and Dave's bodies, intense bands and lashes of pure hope radiating from the silhouettes. Dave's eyes widen, his mouth opens as if to scream, but it doesn't make a sound. Infinite experience flows through his consciousness, an unimpeded torrent of raw potentiality. He sees everything. The roads not taken, the lives not lived, the thoughts, desires, fears all unacted upon, the doomed Daves, the Dave sprites, the Dave Pettas, the life with Jade, life with Carcat, life with both, life with neither. It's like soaring through the clouds at supersonic speed, too quickly to make out the shape of any single puffy nimbus, like the breakneck jaunt through Skya. Huge clouds rushing by, small ones clouds with visions, empty ones white clouds, and even a great dark one, and then the briefest of possible glimpses, almost too fleeting to be noticed, of Dirk. And then nothing. It all stops abruptly, and Dave collapses to the ground, dead. Obama is holding his hand up, and floating just above his palm is Dave's ascended essence. It flickers wildly in his hand like a little kernel sprite. Obama holds it up to his face and blows it like a dandelion fluff. It floats lazily to the chest of the robot, and with that, Obama disappears, leaving the corridor in total darkness and silence. Seconds pass, then a minute, then time seems to stop altogether, as if the aspect itself has suspended its forward motion, bowing before the unprecedented transformation taking place. It defers its greatest night, risen anew. With a deep, reverberating electric hum, the robot's eyes light up, deep red, bright enough to light up the entire passage. Its face comes to life. Its mouth, oddly pliable for a metal surface, begins to smile a little, then very broadly. The robot steps out of its recess and points its head downward, the searing red beams of its eyes spotlighting Dave's crumpled torso. The robot, DaveBot, shakes its head slowly. The doubts, the confusion, the insecurities of the man lying there all died along with his body. DaveBot smoothly reaches down, lifts the shades off the corpse and puts them on his face. About time. And again, people spoiled me about Obama. You people suck sometimes, you know that?
Hey there. Consider becoming a patron, just like the phenomenal Gerald Thomas and Bleed Red.